Hi everyone and welcome to the latest video. I'll explain what I'm going to be working on in just a second, but I thought you might be interested in what my current stock is. And this is the little shed I have with all my unfinished furniture in that I do for myself to sell. And this is currently what I've got. As you can see, quite a lot of things in there. A beautiful desk, which I'll be working on very shortly, and all sorts of goodies. But the piece I'm working on is in here, and you'll see that in just a second. So this is what I want. And this is it. This is an antique bobbin chair, and it dates from about 1880 to 1920, and these are quite valuable, as you can see here for one that's for sale. I'm not saying exactly the same, but very similar. I'm not actually selling this. I'm going to be keeping this for myself and have it in our house. And the main reason for that is I don't have any antiques, and I just thought this would look really nice. We live in an old Victorian house. It's 140 years old. So once this is restored, it's going to take pride of place somewhere in our home. I'm also going to restore a small piece of furniture that was very, very kindly given to me by one of my lovely subscribers. Colin contacted me from watching one of my videos, and he actually donated a couple of pieces of furniture to me, and this is one of them. This is a lovely Queen Anne legged footstool, and as you can see there, it's slightly different in appearance to this chair, but once I've finished, I'm hoping these two will look at home together. The other piece of furniture he gave me was a writing desk, which I'll show you in a minute, and hopefully I'll be doing that in a future video. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the process, and let me know in the comments what you think of the end result. This little box arrived in the post. I had no idea what it was because I hadn't recently ordered anything, and it came from Amazon, and when I opened it, it was a gift from my Amazon wish list. So some very generous viewer had sent me this. Unfortunately, they didn't leave their name in the parcel, so I've no idea who it is, but whoever you are, thanks very much. This was so useful for this job, and I really do appreciate your support. Thank you. As you can see there, the existing upholstery has a little skirt round the side of it, which will be hiding the staples underneath, and holding that in place are some decorative upholstery studs. Now, this upholstery, at this point, I don't think this is original at all, just by the way that it's been upholstered and just the type of material really. So as we go, you'll see that that's the case. There is some original stuff in here, but there's also some work that's been done on this piece not too long ago. This little tool is especially made for removing staples, and as I mentioned previously, you can tell this isn't original because the original material would not have been held down with staples. It had been individual little furniture tacks. So this was a great little tool. It still took ages to do. There was hundreds of staples, and as you can see under there, we're starting to get to some of the original upholstery. But yeah, that tool was great, and without that person who sent that to me, it probably would have taken me even longer. So once again, thanks to whoever that was. I'm certainly no expert on upholstery, but what I have learnt with the few pieces that I've done is that if you are re-upholstering something in the sort of the same way, then use the old material as a template to cut around the new material. So we're starting to get into the original upholstery. I don't think this has been touched for a long time, and the reason for that is this Hessian has been attached with the proper individual upholstery tacks, and even under that there are some old rusty tacks installed. So yeah, this needs to come off, and they took an age as well to remove. I think in all, to remove the old upholstery in total probably took about 2 hours. Once I'd removed the hessian, the next layer was some wool wadding, and hidden inside that wool wadding was some old-fashioned upholstery filling. And it's a bit gross, but it's horsehair, and this was used on a lot of antique furniture for the upholstery. And I actually removed this when I did a previous chair and changed it for some more modern material. And I'll be honest, I got a load of stick on the comments, so you will see shortly what I do with that horsehair. Really loose. That's going to have to come off as well. Now look at the state of this. That has had some upholstery work done on it. I was hoping the little footstool would be a little bit simpler, and it was. It wasn't as big, but God, there was hundreds of staples in this as well. So you have to start stripping it down before you can build it back up. So that's what I'm doing there. Just removing all the staples to get the material off. As you can see from the fists in the video there, I was getting a bit fed up at that point, but just ploughed on. There's some of the staples, and once all that's stripped down, we can then look at what we need to do to build it back up again. The webbing on this was quite loose as well, but this was quite straightforward. Just remove the staples, pull it with your fingers because it didn't need to be super tight, and then just restaple. Once I'd removed what actually felt like a million tacks and staples, it was a bit roughed up, the frame. So all I'm doing there, just a fine grit, just to knock down some of that roughness. Then on to some other repairs. There was a little chip missing. Fortunately, still had a little piece of wood, so that was just a case of fitting it back, putting a little bit of wood glue, and just taping it down, leaving it to dry. These are some little tubes of wood filler in various colours, and you can actually mix them together to get the desired colour you want. I've never used these before, but I was wanting to fill in some of those tack holes on the frame. I didn't really need to because it'd be covered with the material, but I just thought it'd be a good thing to do. And let's just say I won't be using this stuff again, which you'll see in a second. Well, this is the day after I did all that filling. I suspected this when I was putting it on. It was really thin, the filling, and as you can see there, it's not really worked. It's just been too thin, and it's just run into the holes, not really filled them up. So what I think, I mean, they don't really need filling because they're going to be covered with material, but I don't know. I could fill them with some wood filler, just normal wood filler, stainable wood filler, and then stain it. Yeah, I'll probably do that. Ready, sit down. Sit. Ready, steady, go. Off you go. There she is. A lot of you have been a bit worried about Daisy and her corks, but I can assure you, all she does is she bites them in half and then comes and mises me for another one. So she doesn't eat them, and I don't ever give her anything obviously that's gonna do any harm. So she's good. She's just happy with her corks. Right, now this is my dilemma. You can see here, it's the original rattan or cane reeding, and this looks to be hand woven. It's not one of these pre-manufactured panels you can get, it's actually hand woven. A pre-manufactured one would have like a rebate in there, and the mat would go in, and then you'd put another reed around the edge and sort of wedge glue and wedge that in to keep that taut. This isn't that. This is hand done because it's an antique, and this is for me, so I could live with it like that, but I don't know. You can see the gaps there. I don't want to replace this with a modern one, so what I've done, I've ordered some individual individual sort of strands, and I'm going to try and attempt to replace some of these broken elements. Never done it before, but I'll give it a go and see how I get on. The other thing is I have decided not to use a modern wood filler in these holes. Like I say, these are going to be covered up with the material. I just wanted to try and fill them just because there's so many. But to be honest, it's part of the age of the chair, it's part of the history, so I'm just going to keep those in. The only concern I've got is these areas where it's had multiple goes at upholstering it, and because what I think should happen is the upholstery should go sort of follow that line, so there, and go over the top and around the back, and this would be better fully exposed rather than a strap going round it, a finishing piece going round it. But it's a bit of a mess. I can fill that with some repair wax, but I don't know how good it'll look. So anyway, I shall be having a think about that as I go. So the plan is with this, to try and get it to look a bit like that. but it's never going to be perfect. So let's give that a go. Brown mahogany and black. So I want to keep, obviously, this wear, because that indicates the age of the piece, but I just want to try and tone it down a little bit. So that's the next step. So for this, I'm just going to use the brown mahogany. The barking you can hear in the background is my neighbour's dog, Mabel. She's an absolute beauty. She's so cute and she's dead funny. Every time I'm in my workshop, I can make the slightest noise and she's at the garden wall wanting me to lean over and give her a little cuddle. Hopefully, I'll be able to feature Mabel in a future video. I'm sure my neighbours will be fine with that, and you'll all be able to see her. She's an absolute beauty, and I've no doubt you'll all fall in love with her like you did with Daisy. So this is trying to match it when everything's been stained. So that's a little bit more red, that one, but for me, because this is going to be for me, that's fine. That's toned down the wear a little bit, but kept the character. That doesn't look too bad, but I'll give it a go with the repair. And just leave that to dry now, and then some lovely top coat. Cheeky. Very cheeky. Go! Same again, every time. We got one. Oh, that's it, she's done. She's off. Because this is an old piece of furniture, an antique, as I mentioned earlier, it's from the late 1800s. I'm using a traditional top coat, and I'm using a. It says it's French polish, but it's just like a shellac, really. So I'm going to give it a go with this and see how I get on. The manufacturer's mark was JF, and if any of you can find any info out about this, I'd really appreciate to hear it in the comments, because I was really struggling. Thanks very much. The next thing I needed to address was those holes in the frame that were no longer going to be covered up with upholstery. So I'm just using a wax repair stick and a soldering iron just to melt the wax into those holes and hopefully make it look far better than it currently does. I'd just like to say a massive thank you and a big welcome to all the subscribers I've had over the last few weeks since I did the collaboration video with Jay at Flipping Drawers. It was a massive success for me. It's really helped my channel grow. Jay is an absolute superstar, and if you haven't seen his channel, head over to Flipping Drawers because he does some really nice stuff. But yeah, I'd like to say a massive thank you to everyone, and if you haven't subscribed and you like this kind of content, then please consider subscribing. Thanks very much. Right, so it's time to try and repair this damaged reed back, and like I say, I've never done this before, so the aim is to just try and make it look better than it currently is. I know it's not going to be 100% perfect, and again, this is for me and I'm going to be keeping this, so I'm just going to do my best and see how I get on. This is the 2mm wide reeding that I was going to use for the repair, and before I started on the repair I wanted to make sure that I could match it. So I'm staining a piece of the new reeding to see how it matches the old, and it it didn't take the stain at all, which surprised me, but I wasn't too bothered because I had a plan B anyway. This was the start of what was to become a very long journey. This job was definitely a labour of love, and it tested my patience to another level. The existing reeding was so brittle that every time I went anywhere near it with this new stuff, if I applied any sort of excessive pressure, I'd break a little bit of the reeding off. So as I went doing this, trying to thread this new stuff in to replace the missing sections, I ended up knocking more out, and it just went on and on and on. Anyway, I persevered, and I'll be honest, the entire process took me 7 hours to do. And you might be thinking, why? But once I'd started, and a bit was done, it actually made other smaller areas that didn't look as bad at first look worse. So I just had to keep going until I was happy with the end result. So this is the start of it. I won't show you it all. I'll just show you a couple of little bits now of what I did, and then hopefully at the end you'll agree that it was worth my doing. This was one of the finished areas that I'd weaved in the new reeding, and as you can see, it's massively different in colour. So the stain didn't work. Plan B was the furniture touch-up marker, and I was so pleased with how this turned out. The colour match was spot on. It was almost identical, so I couldn't have asked for anything better. It just took forever colouring in by hand every single strand of new reeding that I put in. So this is it. 7 hours later, it looks tons better. I was really pleased with it. It was never going to be perfect. I know that. It's a repair. It's not a replacement. You know, I'm not an expert at basket weaving or whatever you want to call this. It just looks a million times better. And like I say, this is a piece for us in our home. So I'm more than happy with it. And I hope you appreciate the 7 hours of hard work that went into it. After about 3 coats of the French polish, this is how it looked, and it did look nice, but like I say, this is for me, and I didn't want a high gloss finish. I wanted more of just a nice satin sheen, so I'm just using some very fine grit Scotch Brite pad there just to dull down the French polish, and I'm then going to finish it off with some wax, and you'll see how that turns out in just a moment. So I showed you the lovely horsehair earlier, and I mentioned that I got a bit of criticism for basically throwing this away last time, and apparently you can wash this stuff, so that's going into a pillowcase. It's not one we use, and it's been tied up with a cable tie and then just put on a quick wash. And my wife was well aware that it was going in the washing machine, albeit not very happy about it. This little tool is called a webbing stretcher, and this is just one that I made myself. They're about £20 new to buy, and this was just made out of some nails, some scrap plywood, and a garden glove. And if you want to see how I made this, then I'll leave a link to the video in the description. To install the seat webbing, just fix one end and then pull the other end taut with the webbing stretcher and fix that end. I tend to work side to side and then front to back. On the front to back section, just make sure you weave it under and over the webbing you've already put in from side to side. I start in the middle and then determine how many more webbing straps I need just to fill in those gaps. Once the horsehair had been washed, it certainly smelt better, but it came out like this, all clumped up. So I had to go through every piece and just pull it apart by hand, make sure it was fully dry, and then I could use it to restuff the chair. The material I'm using is a more modern style material, albeit based on some old designs of floral prints and sort of nature prints. I personally love it and I've been wanting to use it for a while. I've no doubt some people won't like it, but if you wait till the end and see the final result, I think you will be pleasantly surprised. I'm really sorry for this, but the next bit, I've missed a step. As you can see, the chair has got the finished upholstery on it. I didn't realise the battery had gone on my camera until it was too late, so apologies for that. I've done a rubbish job of that there. Rubbish. So what I'm going to do, I've got some ribbon, so I'm going to cover that with that, like that. Yeah. And then I'm going to put that on. Yeah, that'll do. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you've lasted this long, then thanks so much, because this is a long video. I know that they're not generally this long, but there's been a lot of work involved in this. I'd just like to say a huge thank you for all your support, and if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, as this helps YouTube recognise that people are enjoying the content, and it will help my channel grow. I'm hoping to get to 20,000 subscribers off the back of this. I'm not far away, which I'm absolutely blown away by. And if you haven't subscribed and you want to watch more content like this, then please consider subscribing. It's completely free to do so. And as always, thanks very much for watching.